What's going on, y'all? It's J Smo Reviews here, back at it again with another video. Getting back into the creative bag, man, bringing a series that I have not done in a minute back, and that is the Hall of Fame series. Pitted as like a question, right, where we take a battler's body of work, we take them, what they've given to battle rap. We start off talking about their style a little bit, talk about their key battles, their highs and lows specifically, and then talk about their accolades that may be in or out of the ring, but are just impactful and contribute to the culture. And in this particular video, as you can see by the title, we are doing John to Don. Now, I know a lot of people, I've had debate through the years where there is some people that are extremely high on John, you know what I'm saying? But there is a crowd that's definitely low on him. I've had people debate me if John is a legend in this sport. I feel like in terms of people like the John, I think Cortez, there's a couple people that get it rough in battle rap in terms of how they're critiqued, how their overall legacy has been critiqued. Someone who, even if it hasn't always had the most explosive footage, I think has always been one of the better examples of a well-rounded battle rapper. Someone that can do everything, which I guess we'll talk about in a second here with the style portion. But due to some things he's done recently, obviously the Easy battle was pretty impactful. Something he was doubted. He was doubted very much so, even by myself going into the battle. And lately, I know he's had some. He was talking to Fonz. I saw on Angry Fan Live a battle that, if you see my volume wish list, that's a battle that I think should go down here in the first quarter of 2024. I think it's a good look for him and Fonz. But see, that trash talk even has the Cody versus Bodie talk, which I vehemently disagree with him on. But just a lot of noise around John's name lately, and it just made me realize, man, there's a whole catalog here to break down. I know recently in the last year I've kind of given John a hard time on the channel, so I thought that we could really break down the body of work here and answer the question, is John a Hall of Famer? And we'll start off with, as I said, the first portion, talking about his style. Breaking down the style that has gotten John to Don where he's at in battle rap and given him the career that he's had. And as I said earlier, tactician was the word I used. And I think a key part of being a tactician is knowing that for the specific matchup, you may have to bring completely different approaches or a different type of attack. And I think that ties perfectly to John because we talk about some of the four main categories in battle rap. Let's say anglers, punchers, straight pens, right, aren't considered fully with punchers, and then performers. I wouldn't consider John a top 5 angler now or all time in battle rap. I wouldn't consider him a top 5 puncher now all time in battle rap. Top 5 performer, same thing. And with Penn, I think that's the he gets critiqued for most. I know that most people would not consider him that, but the one thing he is he's one of the few that's very good at all four depending on the situation. And I think that is the key to John to Don, is that depending on the matchup or whatever he has to do, he can tap into that bag. When we talk about high performance moments, which he has on SMs and Gnomes, but we've also seen in smaller rooms versus some of the writers. We'll talk about all these battles here in a second. He has given more of a bar for bar approach, been a little bit more tactical, and at all times is usually pretty direct, tying angles into all different types of opponents. But also having battles where he doesn't do that, and he's still, for the most part, straight bars for bars people. There's only so much I could say about it. He's really one of the most well-rounded battle rappers of all time, and I think that's the key, is that sometimes, since he is so well-rounded, he doesn't peak out in one category to get some of the oohs and ahs. And I think when some people refer to him maybe as default or boring, it's just that he can get into any kit, right? Oh no, he's not one of the best of this, he's not one of the best of that, but he's really good at all of them, and it's involved him being very competitive, and that's something you can't take away from him, is how competitive he's been versus top competition, and how much he frequents on these top level events because of that. And that's because even though he doesn't max out in one category, oh no, he's not the best of this or the best of that, he ends up being one of the best battle rappers by just being really good at everything. I think that's key. That shows someone that's a student of the game. Many people do a Tim Duncan comparison. I'm not too mad at that, because it is, with John all about, it seems like the fundamentals of battle rap. So for that, I know it doesn't always lead to the craziest footage, the most explosive, but it leads to someone that is a true strategist in battle rap. And then we got to give examples of that, right? So the key battles of John's career, and these key examples of why he is who he is. And we start, as you see with the list right here, Hitman Holla, probably the best back and forth in his catalog, the second most viewed battle in his catalog, but the most viewed 1v1 battle. He's got the 2-on-2 on Summer Impact. Him and Hitman, ironically, you know what I'm saying, versus Clips and Goods, but 1v1 battle, 5+ million views, and it's a great back and forth. Obviously, a lot earlier in John's career where he was being given a shot. Really the first example of a big stage shot like this, like a pure, like, pretty much a rookie, a PG graduate, a fresh PG graduate or PG at the time, versus a Hitman Holla on a Summer Madness. Historic, and he completely showed out and made a classic of it. From there, you get into some of the more dominant performances. We talked Jack Boy and Wavy. You could throw Prep in here, but Jack Boy being on Gnome and Wavy being on SM makes it a little bit more important, and we all know, once again, if you look at his performances here, he's got bar for bar, he's got angles and performative moments, but specifically versus Jack Boy, we all know the chain angle and moment, one of the most well-executed angles in the history of battle rap, although it's not, some of it, it's kind of funny, because another critique against John, his best moments come against some of his not best competition, but these are real body. First of all, Hitman is an incredible battle, and I'm taking my shot, close range, that's one of his best moments versus at least the top 2 battle rapper of all time, in my opinion. But still, even though he's battling down, he makes an example of both of them. And that's why him and DNA, I'll throw in here, are some of the absolute best top tiers when it comes to giving shots to younger guys in terms of their win rate and how good they do. John and DNA as well, but we're talking about John here, have sent a lot of guys back to the drawing board to kind of reconfigure some things about their style. And those are some of the best examples, but back to that critique about some of John's best moments and best performances only being against guys that are maybe a tier under. I think he makes an example of him because he shows the level, but this is the underrated part of John's resume here, and it's battles like John versus Rum Nitty. And something I'll say about this battle and the others ahead of it, it's not always the craziest footage, but this is what I'm talking about, where I says he's a tactician, where although he's not always going to max out in one category, he's going to find ways to win some battles. John versus Rum Nitty in a volume at that, right? And we know Nitty is not clean in this battle, but even without that, I think John gives one of the best kind of all-around ranges of attack, where he's obviously rapping more fluid, just like literally rapping his material better, part of being better prepped, but he angles a little bit in there. He is very performative if you watch the battle. It is like he's kind of encapsulating the room a little bit, and I thought got a clear win versus Rum Nitty in a volume, which is crazy to think about. John Denon versus Hollow Denon, SM8 headliner out in the UK, a battle that's not the greatest battle, I'll tell you that right now, and he even has flaws in this battle, but once again, I think he shows the all-around toolkit. He just angles a little better. He's just bar for bar a little bit better. He's bringing a little bit more energy, and to me, like I said, not the greatest battle, but beating Hollow Denon on a Summer Madness main event. These are things that, since they're not the most explosive footage, they get swept under the rug, but I'm naming wins over some of the best ever in environments they should be great in. John versus Reed, we know the lesson he taught Reed coming back to battle rap on Gnome 4. John Denon versus Big K, he loses the first round clear, he goes on to clearly win the next 2 rounds of the battle. Part of that third is Big K, you know what I'm saying, not exactly bringing his best round, but at the end of the day, he still faced a pretty good K, bars out in the second and the third for the most part, and kind of just outlast a puncher when it comes to back-to-back punching, and even as recent as John Denon versus Easy the Block Captain, when I myself, you know what I'm saying, counted him out matchup-wise, like I did with many of these matchups going into it prediction-wise. He shows an all-around game, actually gives one of his better back-and-forth battles in his catalog, and I think that between, and I did my review for it, I thought he was so good bar for bar compared to other battles, especially recently. I thought he had the rim blocker, shot protector bar, like clever flips like that were good, while still angling, while still being pretty performative in there as well. Couple schemes in there. These are some of the battles for me that are the best examples of John when he's at his best, and whether you think it's the best footage or it's just not the best footage, it's either beating top tier competition or making examples of people in the brightest stages on the biggest stages under the brightest lights. And listen, it's not perfect. I think he's got some losses in there too. Tay-Rock, Sue Surf, K-Shine, Twerk. I feel like he's had a hard time hosting or not hosting, but main eventing bullpen. I had him losing to Ace, debatable. I did have him losing to Chilla and 40, and even the Ill Will battle didn't go great for him. So listen, there's losses here. You know, we're not going to only highlight the best, but still, this is what it comes down to the career of a battle rapper. You're going to have some big losses with him. I think some star power and performative guys have given him issues. You see names like Rock, Surf, Shine, and Twerk. But for the most part, there's other great examples like Hitman, like Hollow Denon, like Easy the Block Captain that are also of that ilk where he has a great performance. So for me, there's much more good to talk about. And not even his whole resume, but while there is some flaws for the most part, John has proven to almost always have a very fair shot versus other top tier competition. And that leaves you with just the straight accolades, right? And things that John John has brought to the culture. Obviously, an owner of Bullpen Battle League, which has brought us all types of different battles, right? I named the main events before that John John's been a part of. John John versus Chilla, John John versus 40, John John versus Ace, which doesn't even cover, all the battles that he's main evented on his league. But it also brings you battles like the infamous body bag of Loso versus Briz Rothstein. That whole 1v, even though he lied with that one-rounder event, kind of a pattern there. With Bullpen, hasn't always been the most honest with the way things are marketed, but Rock versus Bad News was incredible. The Briz Rothstein body over Loso is obviously historic. You get battles like B-Dot versus Loso, which is also great. You get the Bulls going at it. Bad News versus Loso. Excel versus Loso. We've seen Chef Trez has good footage here with Chef Trez versus DNA being one of the better battles that's happened on Bullpen. So Bullpen's provided all types of different stuff for us. Talents like Clone getting an opportunity. And then from there you get into kind of his just stage appearances. 8 SM appearances, which ranks third all time. 8 SMs. Yes, he's got the third most SMs in history. For the most part, he's got some battles with a good record, some that, right? He's got the Verb battle, the Will battle, the Surf battle, not exactly great, but then he's got battles like the Hollow battle, like the Wavy battle, like the Hitman battle, so it gives you a varied option. 4 Gnome appearances, his most recent, he had both of his most recently, he had T-Top on SM this past year, as well as being on the Gnome Impact 2-on-2, where him and DNA, talked about them earlier, smoking 2 rookies into flared foots. He also is considered by many to be the best PG of all time. I think out of everyone that's went through the PG process, his accolades would be the most stacked up there. SM appearances, Gnome appearances, and even views, right? He's got over 29 million views total. He averages almost around 500K per battle. I think it's like 450 here, 450,000 views per battle, which is a little lower than some of his peers, but still top tier numbers. And then he has 14 platinum battles, 14 million view battles, and that's with still some battles in the app that even if you had him winning or losing, I'd say probably would add a couple million there, but we can't do that for everybody, right? We'd have to hypothetical numbers, but 14 million view battles is obviously still impressive. And I think, as mentioned earlier with the PG thing, he did go through one of those first ever PG classes, and he did go through a class that did have a B Magic, a bill collector, a clean paper, so one of the most known classes of all time, and he's still considered one of the most successful of them. And I think he's a great example of, even if you're not immediately a fan favorite in some categories, just improving your game until the work becomes undeniable. And for me, when we ask the question, which we'll ask now, is John John Dodon a Hall of Famer? How could the answer be anything else but yes? There's some people that question if John John's a legend. I remember back in the day, spaces, let's say around 2021, early 2022, people in there, like they do with Cortez. I feel like John John gets some of that heat as well. Like, is he a legend because of this and that? And I think that's because some people, some of their favorite battlers, right? Shout out Gun Titles, are Rock and Surf. A lot of people love that big performative star like a Shine or Twerk. And like I mentioned, he has struggled at times with those matchups. There's no question about it. But then you overlook all this other work, like the key battles that we talked about. And that's still not mentioning good work that he's given, like Jerry West. If we're just going to name random battles, like Jerry West on one of the, I believe it was the first app event or the second app event, which was actually a really good and underrated battle, like Geechee Gotti, which I didn't even have in the key battles, but I talked a little bit about earlier, which is a very good battle. Battles like his early PG days, versus that of a B Magic or a Bill Collector, whether you got him winning or losing. There's so much more good history here. And when you get caught up on a couple big losses, you miss some of these underrated wins, or wins that are in big spots, but people just want to ignore them because it didn't leave the impression they wanted or the extreme result that they wanted. For me, it's no question, you don't get on 8 SMs by just being regular. That could be the one line for me. You don't get on 8 Summer Madnesses by being regular. So even though I think in recent years we haven't gotten some of the best John John, I think the Easy battle is a great kind of return to form here. Like I said, I love the him and Fonz going back and forth. It's a battle that I would really like to see here this year. But even though I've been critical 2020 to about 2022 really wasn't his best run, we're seeing once again that he's getting it all together. And any legend, anyone that is a Hall of Famer at any time could get back on their A game for the most part. But that is my Hall of Fame video here on John John Dodon. You guys let me know what you think. Do you think John John Dodon is a Hall of Famer or legend? Answer should be yes, but if it's not, I'd love to hear your arguments against it, and like to see him getting back into form, because like I said, there is matchups out here that I still think he can be very good in, putting over some new talent and giving some style clashes to some guys that need it. But it's been J Smo Reviews again here, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna catch you on the next one, man. Peace.